So I was 37 when I hit financial independence, where my passive income exceeded my active income, factoring in inflation over 9 years. So that was around $200,000 a year doing nothing just off investments, practicing and teaching. But I didn't stop there. I kept increasing it. It got $256,000 in a month, more than I ever imagined I could ever save. But every time I invested my money and invested it and put it into that investments, when you manage money wisely, you get more money to manage. And all of a sudden, book deals are coming in, and I get royalties, passive income. Somebody wants me to come and speak, and they'll pay the fees, passive income, extra income. The investments are opportunities. Leveraging the brand started happening. Making products that were selling. Creative ideas started coming in to allow me to make secondary incomes and passive incomes and multiple streams of income in order to achieve this thing that I made a commitment to, and financial independence manifested. Raise your hand if you've got a few amazing ideas. Showering. How many of you can sing amazingly when you shower? So I came out and I said, I think I have a solution. He said, what's that? Because until you have a strategy, you don't have a game plan. And you don't have certainty about what you're going to do. So I said, right now, I am saving, with all my debts and all my bills, I'm saving $200 a month. That's it. So I know I can do that. But what I'd love to do is I would like to increase that amount. And I came up with an idea called a forced accelerated savings technique, FAST. And a forced accelerated investment technique, FATE. I came up with FAST and FATE. And with that, I saw light at the end of the tunnel. Because if I divide 1.1 million over a period of 18 years, that's going to need to be 2.2 million by that time. And if I divide that by 180 or 200 months, that's still $20,000 a month I've got to save to get that goal, or the equivalent with compound interest. And I'm saving 200, I need 100 times that amount saved. And that's a big jump. I didn't see how I could do that. Because by the time you do it with inflation, it's going to, every 18 years is going to double the cost. So I knew I really had, over this period of time, 2.2 million I needed to save. This makes sense. So I broke that down in how many months, so I had to find out, what do I need to average? And when I sat there and thought through that, I thought, well, I'll start out at 200, but I'm going to make it and go above that amount so it averages the amount we need to do. And I believe that I have the courage and the capacity to increase it as I go. As I get more skilled in my practice and everything else, I can increase that amount. So I saved $200 a month. And I got comfortable over the next 90 days doing that every month. And I saved $300 a month at the end of 3 months. I just increased it. And then I saved $500 a month 3 months later. And then I saved $750 a month 3 months later. And then I saved $1,000 a month 3 months later. So a year later, I'm now at $1,000 a month. But then I made a commitment that I was going to increase the amount I was going to save and invest 10% every quarter. So that means 3 months later, it's going to be 1,100, 1,210, 1,3443, 1,446. It's a Pascal triangle, a binomial equation. I was going to commit to that amount, and I was just going to consistently increase that amount automated. And I actually got with a Schwab investment company, and I got with my bank and had it automated where they would increase my savings 10%. And once I had a certain cushion of cash for the practice, at least 3 to 6 months worth of capital, then it was going to go buying into stocks and buying into companies. And I had it electronically automated where there was no emotion, there was nothing. All I did now is focused on serving clients, focused on generating patients, etc. And my practice went up, and I was paid off the debts. And the second the debts, they immediately, whatever I was paying for the debt, the $2,500 to $3,000 to $4,000 a month on the debts, I immediately stuck now into savings. So on the third year, I was now saving more like $10,000 to $12,000 a month, and I was increasing at 10%. So if you're saving $12,000, now you're adding $1,200 every 3 months. Well, then I was all of a sudden at $16,000. The following year it was $32,000. The following year is $64,000. I got up to $128,000 a month. And instead of having it at $200 a month, and there's no way, I was on my way to financial independence. So 9 years after I started, I was financially independent. So I was 37 when I hit financial independence, where my passive income exceeded my active income, factoring in inflation over 9 years. So that was around $200,000 a year doing nothing, just off investments, practicing and teaching. But I didn't stop there. I kept increasing it. It got $256,000 in a month, more than I ever imagined I could ever save. But every time I invested my money and invested it and put it into that investments, when you manage money wisely, you get more money to manage. And all of a sudden, book deals are coming in, and I get royalties, passive income. Somebody wants me to come and speak, and they'll pay the fees, passive income, extra income. The investments are opportunities. Leveraging the brand started happening. Making products that were selling. Creative ideas started coming in to allow me to make secondary incomes and passive incomes and multiple streams of income in order to achieve this thing that I made a commitment to. And financial independence manifested. Faster than I imagined it when I started. I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel when I started, but when I realized I could increase it every quarter, the second I made a habit out of it, 90 days, I said, let's increase it. Maximum growth and development occurs at the border of comfort and uncomfort. The second you're comfortable with a habit, make yourself just a little bit more uncomfortable, a 10% uncomfort, you won't react. And I just increased it 10% every quarter. And all of a sudden, my financial independence came there. I've seen this with doctors. When they follow that little format, their practices grow. If you don't have a demand on yourself, you won't get the extra supply. So this exercise has pertinence not only at home, but also in practice. So today in my life, I travel around on my ship. I do podcasts and webinars most of the time, and I'm writing, I'm teaching, researching, writing, and traveling. Everything else is delegated. I even have a clock changer to take care of my clock changing. I got cooks, I got cleaners, I got captains, I got pilots, everything is delegated. Cleaning, everything is delegated. I don't want to do anything other than what inspires me. If you want an inspired life, don't do desperate things. Don't do things that devalue you. The universe is absolutely magnificent the moment you give yourself permission to do what's magnificent. That's a very important exercise up there. It'll make a difference if you follow it. It changed my life, and that was 27, I'm 68, going on 69, so that's that many years. 41 years I've been doing that, and it made me more income. It allowed me to empower my creativity, because when you're doing something you love to do and you're pursuing challenges that inspire you, you wake up genius. When you're doing something you love to do at work, you thrive. You make the most income. People want to be around you and they want to invest in you. When you do, you wake up leadership. All areas of life, spiritually, mentally, career, financial, family, social, and physical, all are enhanced by living authentically and prioritizing what you're doing and sticking to what you know in the heart is what you want to dedicate to. and building the practice of your dreams. If you've never written down the dream practice of how you would love your practice to be, do it. Get really, really clear on how you really would love it to be and work towards it. And prioritize it and delegate it and go and do what is that produces. That exercise, I am certain, will make a difference if you apply it and apply it again and again and again until you're freed and doing what you really love doing, which hopefully, as a chiropractor, is adjusting subluxations and sharing a message with people out the world and bringing chiropractic. Your success is not going to be just how many patients you see. Your success, in my opinion, is also going to be how many students want to go to chiropractic college who came through your practice and said, I want to be like that individual right there. I want to be a chiropractor. That's how you know you've made it. I know that just in Texas Chiropractic College, over 400 students came to chiropractic college because of what happened in our practice. 400. Enough to build darn near part of a chiropractic college. So measure that. How many young people have you inspired to go and do what they love doing? How many young people have you inspired? So that's one exercise. Now I want to do one on also finance. Is that another one that would be interesting? Is that helpful? You see it? Okay. Right about the same time I read that book by Elliot McKenzie, a guy walked in my office who is a financial planner and asked if he could have a meeting with me. I had a moment. I had a little internal dialogue affirmation that says when they come to make the sale, make the sale. So I figured when salespeople came to me, instead of being upset about it, I just turn them into patients. In fact, sometimes when they come in to actually have a meeting, we have a fun thing we do. It says, yes, you'd like to meet with Dr. DeMartini? Yes, I'd like to meet with Dr. DeMartini. Fine. If you could fill out this history form, that would be great. And they go, well, no, I'm not here for the doctor. Well, I know, but Dr. DeMartini doesn't meet with people unless they're making sure that they're level-headed, they're shooting straight from the hip, and they've got a straight spine. And they go, well, okay, I guess I can fill this out. Anyway, at least 70% of the people that came to make a sale, I got turned into patients. So I didn't have any problem with having salespeople come in because I turned them into patients. As far as I'm concerned, that's free marketing. But this guy comes in and he wants to chat. And a young guy, maybe 3 years older than me, 30, 31 maybe. And he says, Dr. DeMartini, may I ask you some very personal questions? I said, sir. I'm sitting across from my desk with him. He said, do you have an intention of being financially independent in your life? And I said, yes, I do. He said, are you sure? And I said, well, yeah. If I was to tell you that there are 10 questions that if I was to ask you, I could tell you whether that would happen or not, would you want to know those 10 questions? I said, oh, might as well. What are the 10 questions? He says, well, let's go through the 10 questions and see if you're going to be financially independent. Because if you can't answer these 10 questions, you won't be financially independent. If you can answer them, you have a probability of being financially independent. Okay, give it to me. Let me hear the 10 questions. Now, I'm 27 years old. I don't have a lot of background in money and finance. I was making money going to school teaching, but most of my money was going to paying for college, because to go to chiropractic college costs money, buying books, and going to seminars. I was educating myself at high value in education because I had learning problems as a child. So almost every dollar that came in, it went right back into education of some form at that stage in my life because that was highest on my values, and mainly chiropractic education. So he asked me the first question, number one, What are your total current assets? Total current assets. Total current assets. Now, I really didn't know what an asset was. It's hard to believe probably because you probably all know what it is, but I didn't really know at 27 what exactly does he mean by assets. So to dodge how stupid I was, I said, well, what do you mean by assets? I mean, see that was a dodge. I want to make sure I'm clear on what it is. Well, it's like cash on hand in a bank, equities in shares of companies, real estate holdings with equity, valuables, commodities that you might have that are valuable, real assets. Oh, okay. Now I know what an asset was. And I realized at that time about the only assets I had were books. I didn't really have many savings of any form, small amount of savings. I didn't have any shares. I didn't have any assets. Not really, because I just got into practice weeks earlier, and I'm paying off debts. I got a $70,000 loan, and I had a bit of a tiny bit of student loan and so I had a car loan, these kind of things. Anybody start with more debt than when you started than when you had? Most people did. So I realized it was zero. I didn't have any assets other than book assets. If I was to sell my book, what's the dollar value of it? 10 cents on a dollar. That's about it. And so I kind of went, negative, kind of a zero. He said, number 2 question, what are your liabilities? What are your liabilities? And now that I knew pretty clearly. And I listed my debt from the banks, my debt from school, my debt from car, the commitment that I have now on an apartment that I'm paying. And I realized I had a lot of debts going out. And I realized I had a negative net worth. Anybody remember the negative net worth period of your life? And how many agree that's not as inspiring as a positive net worth? Not quite as inspiring. You feel like you're working your ass off. I got a very little ass. I worked it off. Tiny little ass. But I got those 2 down now. The third question is, what's your total net worth? Which is your assets minus your liabilities. What's your total net worth? Well, mine was negative. It was clearly, obviously negative. I was in debt. I was optimistic. I thought, I know I'm going to turn this around, but I was a bit naive. I really didn't understand wealth building. I was reading books like Prosperity by Charles Fillmore. I'd read Think and Grow Rich, but I really didn't understand money yet. I had sort of an ideal that I was going to get there somehow, someday. But I saw negative self net worth. The fourth question is this. Now the real challenge begins. That was pretty simple, the first 3. What do you define as financial independent? How much passive annual income do you consider financial independence? It's not a nebulous answer. It's a very finite, specific number. What is it? How much do you want to live on passively without having to work per year? Either before or after taxes, you determine. Well, because I'd made $100,000 a year teaching when I was a student, I thought if I could make $100,000 a year passively, that would be pretty good in 1982. That'd be around $600,000 today. I thought that would be okay. I can't complain. I didn't have grandiose ideas about being a billionaire yet, but I just thought that would be cool. I was not married. I didn't have children. I didn't have house payments. I didn't have all this other stuff. So I thought I could do pretty fine on that. That'd be like getting $50,000 a month coming in today. Same kind of thing when you deal with inflation.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this video and you'd like to see more content like this, please do me a favor. Just smash that like button, comment down below, or subscribe, and make sure you turn your notifications on so you can see more content just like this.
So I wrote that down, $100,000 a month. Now, $100,000 a year, I mean. About $8,000 a month. If I could have that passively earned without having to work, I could go to work because I love to, not because I have to. So I wrote that number down. Now that's kind of small, considering, but that's where it was in 1982. The fifth question. How much, with your knowledge of investing, do you think you can earn off your investments annually? What is the average earnings, interest rate earnings, can you earn per year off your investments with your skills of investing? 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%, 10%, 12%? What can you earn with your knowledge? Obviously, with more skill and knowledge, you can make an earning higher, but what do you feel certain you can earn, not fantasizing, not someday, right now with your knowledge base, what do you feel confident that you can generate off your investments? Now, I didn't know. I had to ask the guy, well, what's a reasonable amount today? And this is in the 80s, so there's a high inflation rate at the time. He said probably 8%, reasonably. I said, okay, we'll put 8% down. So 8% was that answer, number 5. They said, what is the inflation? Next question. What is the inflation rate you're facing? What's the inflation rate you're facing that you think you're going to average over the time that you're going to be investing? I said, well, what's the average inflation rate across time? He said around 3 to 4%. 3% maybe. It's high right now, but it went down for what, 20 years? It was down really low, under 2%, at 2% or less. Now it's back up, but it's heading back down again. So I wrote down 3%. The next question, how much total net worth do you require earning 8% minus 3% to give you the financial independence that you require? So what is the total net worth do you require earning 8% minus 3% for inflation to give you 5%? And so I did that. I think, okay, well, 5% into 100% is 1/20th. So 100,000, I need to multiply times 20. So I need $2 million earning 8% minus 3% to give me a 5% yield to give me $100,000 a year. Raise your hand if you follow all that. So I need $2 million. Okay, so assets, liabilities, total net worth. What is the amount you want to live on passively that you would call financial independence? Interest rate earned, inflation, and now total amount that you need earning 8% minus 3% to give you that number 4. When I got that, I realized I need $2 million. The next question is, what's the shortfall from your current net worth to that net worth? Pardon me?
$2 million. That was the only easy one to work out.
The 2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Work that one out.
Yeah, you like that one.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. But then I realized I was in debt, so I had to take the debt and add it to the 2 million. So I needed around $2.1 million today. $2.1 million today. Because I had about $100,000 worth of debt when I was at that age. Anybody with me? When I got there, I went, okay, my target now is $2.1 million. But I need that today. If you don't know where you are, if you don't know where you're going, and you don't have a strategy to get there, it's not likely to occur. If you don't know where you are, your current net worth, you don't know where you want to go, the amount of net worth you require for the financial independence, and you don't have a strategy to get there, it's not likely to occur. If you get in an Uber and you don't know where to pick you up, and you don't know where you're going, it's not likely that Uber's going to pick you up and do anything. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That's not rocket science, that's common sense. But it was something I hadn't thought of.
I'm with you.
So now I had to ask, how do I have $2.1 million today, before the end of the day? I thought, porn star? No one's going to pay me that. I got a funny story, I got to say it. I was having dinner in New York with Hugh Jackman and Daniel Craig. I know, you would want to be there, I bet. And after we had dinner, because he was a client, after we had dinner, we went to his theater. He was doing the show Rain right off of Broadway, where he plays two cops, and they do this skit for an hour and a half. At the end of their performance, there was a standing ovation. At the end of that, Hugh and Daniel decided, so we'd like to raise money for a charity. And they started undressing, and he took his shirt off, and he had just his bod, and had his shirt going like this. And do we have any auctions? Now, Michelle Pfeiffer was right to the right of us, and so she was set up to start the bid. 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, went up. Hugh Jackman got $27,000 for that shirt. And I'm getting new creative ideas. Daniel Craig got up there, and it was a little slower, but they finally got up to 24,000. Okay? So James Bond got 24. Hugh's got a bod that I think were a little bit more appealing. Wolverine. Yeah, he does push-ups without his arms. So I thought, next time I do a seminar, okay, I'm going to raise some money for charity. So I did the same thing. Nobody put any money in the kit. Finally, a woman said, I'll pay you to put it back on. So that I didn't carry that on any further. Didn't do it. But anyway. So I thought, well, porn star's not going to do it. Even though I had a fantasy of being an international sex symbol, I don't have sex, so that's not going to work. But I thought, what can I do? And I said, I need to make $1 million, $1.1 million, $1,100,000 today. I need to make $550,000 over the next 2 days. I need to make $225 or 200, whatever it is, $265,000 over the next 4 days. And I kept breaking it down because none of them I could do in my mind. They were overwhelming. There was just nothing I could see that was going to give me any light at the end of the tunnel. And I was having a headache and gut tightness. because I was thinking, well, this is the fact. I can't argue with the facts. This is what it's going to take to be financially independent, but I don't see how I'm going to do that. I don't have a pathway. I don't see a strategy. So I broke it down into smaller and smaller increments and expanded the time. And finally I got down to, well, over the next 18 years, I can save this amount and invest this amount and eventually get there. And finally I got to a comfort zone. But in the meantime, I had a jaw that was tight, a TMJ tightness, a headache that was throbbing, a gut that was in, and an itchy ass. How many know what I'm talking about? A stress response. And I went down to the bathroom, and I sat there, and I was having a major conflict because there was a part of me that really believed that I was someday going to be financially independent. But when I actually got grounded in what it's going to take to actually do it, I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see how I was going to do it. It was, as long as I stayed in the fantasy, I was feeling fine. But to actually ground it and force me to now be accountable was another story. And that guy sat there comfortably waiting for me to get through my conniption fit and my emotions, and finally say, are you serious? I wanted to know if you're serious about being financially independent, because what it's going to take is going to take some focus. There's going to be some work involved. And if you really are committed to it, it's going to take that type of work. It's not going to just happen because of fluffy fantasies. So I went down to the bathroom, and in the bathroom I got an idea. Just an obvious idea. Just couldn't see it until I was in the bathroom. Raise your hand if you've got a few amazing ideas. Showering. How many of you can sing amazingly when you shower? So I came out, and I said, I think I have a solution. He said, what's that? Because until you have a strategy, you don't have a game plan. And you don't have certainty about what you're going to do. So I said, right now, I am saving, with all my debts and all my bills, I'm saving $200 a month. That's it. So I know I can do that. But what I'd love to do is I would like to increase that amount. And I came up with an idea called a forced accelerated savings technique, FAST. And a forced accelerated investment technique, FATE. I came up with FAST and FATE. And with that, I saw light at the end of the tunnel. Because if I divide 1.1 million over a period of 18 years, that's going to need to be 2.2 million by that time. And if I divide that by 180 or 200 months, that's still $20,000 a month I've got to save to get that goal, or the equivalent with compound interest. And I'm saving 200, I need 100 times that amount saved. And that's a big jump. I didn't see how I could do that. Because by the time you do it with inflation, it's going to, every 18 years is going to double the cost. So I knew I really had, over this period of time, 2.2 million I needed to save. This makes sense. So I broke that down in how many months, so I had to find out, what do I need to average? And when I sat there and thought through that, I thought, well, I'll start out at 200, but I'm going to make it and go above that amount, so it averages the amount we need to do. And I believe that I have the courage and the capacity to increase it as I go. As I get more skilled in my practice and everything else, I can increase that amount. So I saved $200 a month. And I got comfortable over the next 90 days doing that every month. And I saved $300 a month at the end of 3 months. I just increased it. And then I saved $500 a month 3 months later. And then I saved $750 a month 3 months later. And then I saved $1,000 a month 3 months later. So a year later, I'm now at $1,000 a month. But then I made a commitment that I was going to increase the amount I was going to save and invest 10% every quarter. So that means 3 months later, it's going to be 1,100, 1,210, 1,3443, 1,446. It's a Pascal triangle, a binomial equation. I was going to commit to that amount, and I was just going to consistently increase that amount automated. And I actually got with a Schwab investment company, and I got with my bank and had it automated where they would increase my savings 10%. And once I had a certain cushion of cash for the practice, at least 3 to 6 months worth of capital, then it was going to go buying into stocks and buying into companies. And I had it electronically automated where there was no emotion, there was nothing. All I did now is focused on serving clients, focused on generating patients, etc. And my practice went up, and I was paid off the debts. And the second the debts, they immediately, whatever I was paying for the debt, the $2,500, the $3,000, the $4,000 a month on the debts, I immediately stuck now into savings. So on the third year, I was now saving more like $10,000 to $12,000 a month, and I was increasing at 10%. So if you're saving $12,000, now you're adding $1,200 every 3 months. Well, then I was all of a sudden at $16,000. The following year, it was $32,000. The following year is $64,000. I got up to $128,000 a month. And instead of having it at $200 a month, and there's no way, I was on my way to financial independence. So 9 years after I started, I was financially independent. So I was 37 when I hit financial independence, where my passive income exceeded my active income, factoring in inflation over 9 years. So that was around $200,000 a year doing nothing just off investments, practicing and teaching. But I didn't stop there. I kept increasing it. It got $256,000 in a month, more than I ever imagined I could ever save. But every time I invested my money and invested it and put it into that investments, when you manage money wisely, you get more money to manage. And all of a sudden, book deals are coming in, and I get royalties, passive income. Somebody wants me to come and speak, and they'll pay the fees, passive income, extra income. The investments are opportunities. Leveraging the brand started happening. Making products that were selling. Creative ideas started coming in to allow me to make secondary incomes and passive incomes and multiple streams of income in order to achieve this thing that I made a commitment to. And financial independence manifested. Faster than I imagined it when I started. I couldn't see light at the end of the tunnel when I started, but when I realized I could increase it every quarter, the second I made a habit out of it, 90 days, I said, let's increase it. Maximum growth and development occurs at the border of comfort and uncomfort. The second you're comfortable with a habit, make yourself just a little bit more uncomfortable, a 10% uncomfort, you won't react. And I just increased it 10% every quarter. And all of a sudden, my financial independence came there. I've seen this with doctors. When they follow that little format, their practices grow. If you don't have a demand on yourself, you won't get the extra supply. Force yourself. I did it with a guy in Trieste, Italy. He didn't even know it. His wife and I went in and automated his increase in his savings, and his practice grew up. I consulted with him in his office, and I gave him tips on what he can do to grow his practice. But it was that did it, and he did not know for 2 years that had happened. 2 years, because his wife was taking care of all the finances. 2 years later, he found he had way more money invested and saved than he ever imagined. He goes, oh my God, wow, how in the hell did you do that? He said, well, Dr. DeMartini, when he was here, we forced an accelerated savings, and your practice caught up to make sure you could do it. You don't wait to see if you have it. You take it out. You value yourself first. You pay yourself first, and then you attract business to be able to get that outcome. If you wait to see at the end and pay yourself last, you won't. Because entropy takes over the finances if you don't manage them wisely. Unexpected bills come in. Whatever your total unexpected bills are every month, find out how much it is and stick that into savings at the beginning of the month and watch the unexpecteds go down. Entropy is a byproduct of non-organized financial management. So the strategy was the forced accelerated savings technique. And I did it, automated it. I did not emotionalize it. Emotions destroy wealth building. Automation builds it. Don't get your emotions in the way. Automate it. Electronically transfer it from your bank account. I don't keep money in banks because of fractional reserves. I keep it into investment companies that have more stability. And I pass it through the banks right into the investment companies, and I accelerate it. And I've been doing it 41 years now. And it's amazing what it can do. Compound interest is the greatest wonder of the world, according to Einstein. And compound interest liberates you from a lot of crazies.
Good.
That helpful?
Yes.
So those are the 10 questions. The 10th question was, what was the strategy? And that was I couldn't come up with a strategy until I got the forced accelerated savings and the forced automated investment technique. Well, the first one is assets, the second liabilities, the third one is net worth, the fourth one is the total amount you require, the fifth one is the interest, the sixth one is the inflation, the seventh one is the total amount, the eighth one is what's the difference between them, the ninth one was the strategy, and in the strategy then you put as number 10 the forced accelerated savings with automation, where there's no emotion. Now, some of my students, I had a guy in France, this is so funny. I was doing a presentation to 200 doctors in France a number of years ago. This is 30 years ago. And I did this presentation. I shared just what I'm sharing with you. And I guess the translator mistranslated it. But the guy was there taking notes. And I saw this guy 25 years later, 5 years ago, at a conference. He comes up and he gives me a big hug and a kiss. He goes, "You're the man that made me wealthy." And I said, "Great." He says, "I did what you said. It's amazing." You know how the French speak. "I did what you say. It's amazing." And I said, "What did you do?" He says, "I did exactly what you said. I doubled my savings every month." I didn't want to tell him that's not what I said. But this guy just forced it in a more accelerated fashion than I did, and it worked. So I didn't want to say anything. I just left it at that. I thought, okay, leave the guy alone. It worked for him. But he became very financial, very viably, very quickly. If you can imagine doubling it every month, it's quite extensive. But he became very fortunate as a chiropractor in France, where most of that was undercover money in those days. Very common in those days. So just know that the money circulates through the economy from those who value it least to those who value it most. If you don't have a value on wealth building, whatever you have a value on is where your money will go. So unless you have a value on wealth building, don't expect financial independence. I've interviewed many people, over 100 billionaires and many centimillionaires, and also people in poverty. And if it's not in the top 4, financial independence doesn't occur. If it's not in your top 4 values, it doesn't occur. That's been consistent pattern I've seen in all the people I've interviewed. So that may not be important to you, but if it is, just know it will be required that you have a value on wealth building. My personal feeling is I wanted to empower all 7 areas of my life. Since I was 18 years old, I wanted to master my life. I saw the guy Kung Fu with David Carradine. You remember that? Anybody old enough to remember that? No? Some of you? You know it? 2 of you? You know what I'm talking about? And he had a master who was a Shaolin master from China. And he said, he called him Grasshopper and he called him Master. And I said, I like that. I want to be a master. And so I set out, what exactly is a master? And I divided life into 7 areas, categories. And I want to master all. I want to create original ideas that serve humanity. I remember writing that down at 18. I want to create original ideas that serve humanity. Something that's original, that's novel, that nobody's thought of, original ideas that serve human beings across planet Earth. I want to create a global business. I want to have students, patients globally since I was 18. I wanted to create financial independence, even though I wasn't prepared to it for 10 years. I wasn't 27 before I got grounded on that. Just had a fantasy, but I still wanted it. I want to have a global family, which is one of the reasons I live on a ship that goes all over the world, because I've always imagined, ever since I read Einstein, that he wasn't a man of his family, his community, his city, his state, his nation. He was a citizen of the world. I want to be a citizen of the world. That's why my ship is called the World. And I travel the world. I want to have a family that's global, and I want to imagine that no matter where I am, I'm never I'm at the home. Earth is home, so I'm never away from my family, and no matter what it is, instead of walking from room to room, I fly or sail. Instead of talking by just talking to somebody, I'll do Skype or Zoom or whatever mechanisms. But I wanted to have a global family dynamic. I wanted an astronomical vision with a global impact. I wanted to hang out with movers and shakers on the planet that did extraordinary things that are making a contribution in the 7 areas of life. So I made a list of all those type of people I'd like to meet, the ministers, prime ministers, the presidents, the celebrities, the royalties, whatever it is. I want to meet amazing people that do extraordinary things, Nobel Prize winners, Olympic medalists. And I wrote all those down. I said, I want to hang out in that category and surround myself with people that have global impact. I want to be physically vital and have more energy at the end of the day than when I start, because I'm doing what I love doing. Most people don't think I'm 69 almost, but I think that's the best year. How many would agree that 69 is the best position to be in? It's a bad joke. It didn't go over here. In some countries that actually works, but not here. But I wanted to be a vital, energetic guy. And I also wanted to create a movement on the planet that inspires people, not a religion, there's plenty of religions, but a movement that inspires people across the globe. That's what I wrote down when I was 18. And I'm a firm believer that whatever you write down, whatever is truly deeply meaningful, that you can keep doing the highest priority action steps every day to move in that direction and make that happen. And you can actually make every one of those things real. As a chiropractor, the value of being a chiropractor is you're automatically outside the box. You're automatically a different breed. And you're working with the most significant structure known on earth, the nervous system. You're working with the most empowered aspect of the nervous system, the impulse, the psychological impulse that's life. And you're specializing in the most specialized structure known in existence globally and internationally and astronomically. And you're helping people do something extraordinary on a daily basis with your hands, your heart, and your mind by being present and masterful at sharing a subluxation adjustment. So I had a dream to do that in my life, and if it wasn't for chiropractic, I wouldn't be here today. But I realized that I can do more for the chiropractic profession by doing what I'm doing now than I was in my cubicle, that's all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give Dr. John DeMartini a huge round of applause! I just want to say, first time you've been back in the UK since COVID, and there's no mistakes. There's no mistakes. You guys understand you're here for a reason, yes? So no, there's no mistakes. So John, thanks for being a part of our mastermind this weekend, and we feel so humbled to have you here. Your cab is waiting for you. and I just want to say thanks so much for everything this week, spending time to come down here. It was really tough to fit this mastermind into John's schedule, as you guys can imagine. And he's been working, every time he jumps on a webinar with me, etc., gives 100%. And did he give amazing, did he do well today? Yes. And so, I don't know, I'll let him go. John, thank you so much. Give it a round of applause! Thank you so much. Megan's great granddaughter. Right. Have a seat, have a seat, have a seat, have a seat, have a seat. Have a seat. Okay. Quick, at your table, we're going to get you to lunch the next 10, 15 minutes, but at your tables, just quickly, share at your tables. What's your big takeaways? Go, go, go. Go at your tables, quickly. What's your big takeaways? Go.